Hi, my name is Mia Martinez-Booker, and I'm going to talk to you today about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. What is motivation and how do we use it in a teaching? Motivation means to be moved to do something. One of the most critical yet difficult tasks teachers face is that of motivating their students. There are two types of motivation: intrinsic motivation, which is from within, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And then there's extrinsic motivation from the outside, which is compensation, punishment, and reward. Intrinsic motivation is focused more on the task or challenge one is facing, and the reward is simply the completion of the task. It drives you to do things just for the fun of it or because you believe it is good or the right thing to do. Extrinsic motivation is the use of external rewards and punishments to motivate students to learn or behave in a particular way. Some examples are studying spelling words only to get a toy out of the toy chest. Then you would have to ask yourself, is the child only studying to get a toy? Are they memorizing the words, or are they actually retaining the information? The next one is maintaining a 2.0 grade point average in order to remain on the high school football team or a cheerleading squad. Teachers should never leave a child unprepared. What happens when the football season is over and the student no longer has the expectation of a 2.0 grade average? The next one is completing homework daily only to receive a good report from the teacher to your parent. If this is what the child is doing, one thing that the teacher can do is to add an extra assignment for the student. Answering questions in class in order to receive class participation points. The teacher would have to think to themselves, if the child really has the knowledge that they're answering the questions with, or are they just using unrelated information just to get the class participation points. Answering questions in class. Making A's in order to get rewarded with money. Teachers or parents should never reward a child with money for making A's, because what happens if the parents doesn't have any money? At some point, the money would not be enough for the student. The pros and the cons. Intrinsic and extrinsic motivation both have pros and cons. Intrinsic motivation takes more effort naturally on the teacher's behalf if the student is not naturally motivated. Extrinsic motivation is easier once the teacher has a certain what the student is willing to work for. The pros. The students who are intrinsically motivated are basically self-motivated, and they can also help to motivate those students who are motivated extrinsically. With an intrinsic motivated student, you can put that student with the extrinsic motivated student so they can pair up together and feed off of each other's energy, whether it's doing an assignment or storytelling or putting together puzzles. But they need to both feed off of each other, and the teacher can always go in and check on them and make sure they're okay, but this allows them to have power and feel like they're in control of the situation. For extrinsically motivated students, the instructor is aware that the students are capable and willing to do the work with the right motivation. So the teacher never has to worry about the extrinsic motivated student, because they know that it's not the learning. They know how to do the work, but they're just not motivated, or they're manipulative and wanting a reward for it. The cons: intrinsically motivated students are often left to work independently while more effort is spent engaging those students who are intrinsically motivated. Using extrinsic rewards to motivate a student can result in the student not putting forth an effort to accomplish anything unless perceived reward is involved. Student motivation affects every aspect of school life, from attendance to academic performance and participation in extracurricular activities. Rewards should be replaced with teaching that is focused on the intrinsic motivation of the student. A common goal should be to have the student be at the center of learning, not the reward. Motivation is when the child wants to read. Three things are choices, interest, support. Improvement: child increases confidence and ability in reading. When they practice, the child reads just right books. Three other things that are important: teacher training. There are many sites available for the teacher to know the different cultures, behaviors, and learning disabilities of students. Autonomous environment: the student should always feel independent, confident, and in control. Reward with the next level learning. So this means you don't want to give a reward, a right now reward. You always want to reward when the student makes an effort to learn something different. Never let a student get comfortable in their comfort zone. If you see that they have one thing down packed, you always want to go to the next level with the students. For an example, if they're adding and subtracting and they have that down packed, then you might want to go to 2-digit numbers to adding and subtracting. Always challenge the students. Factors that promote motivation: curiosity, challenge, control, fantasy, competition, cooperation, and recognition. Curiosity: you always want to feed into whatever the child believes. Talk to them and listen to them. They'll tell you more than you need to know. This will help you turn an extrinsic motivated student into an intrinsic motivated student and get to know the student better. Always ask how the student can help you. It gives them control. With the challenge, the student, especially when given an assignment, you always want to challenge what they know. If they answer one thing, you always want to ask them to elaborate on their answer. This makes them think every time that they give a response. Control: you always want to give the students control of their environment. This makes them independent. This makes them feel like they are in control of something. It makes their behavior different. So you never want to go stand over their shoulder and make sure they're doing things right or keep questioning them. Allow them time to raise their hand, and then you go back and offer them help once they ask for it. Fantasy: you always want to ask the child what do they want to be when they grow up. Maybe they want to be a teacher, doctor, a nurse, but you always want to channel in on that whenever they're trying to learn something. You get them to do things, do their work, and behave a certain way because that's their goal that they're trying to reach. Competition can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing, but as teachers, we always want to turn it into something positive. Sometimes they can pair up with their friends in the classroom and it comes a little competitive, but in a positive way. One can get each other to learn, but at different levels. Cooperation: we have to get to know the student and always focus on what's best for them as an individual and get them to cooperate however you can. Recognition: you always want to acknowledge a student's effort, growth, or even when they're improving. Extrinsic incentives. Extrinsic incentives can help students to put in more effort, but only if the desired goal is within the child's reach. Point system, teaching students as individuals. No instant rewards. Praise, these all work as in a chain reaction. The point system, you always want to have the child to keep up with their own points. It makes them accountable for what they're doing, and it gives them something to look forward to. Teaching students as an individual. Everyone learns at a different pace. And just because a student is an intrinsic motivated student doesn't make them any smarter than the next student. It doesn't make their luck any better. It's just how that they have been structured into learning. So everybody can be structured into learning. It just takes a pattern, and it takes daily practice. No instant rewards. This can come in as manipulation, but as instructors, we always have to turn the manipulation into motivation. So no instant rewards. If they answer a question or if they turn in an assignment, you never want to give them something right then. They have to know that, yes, I did this correctly, but I need to continue doing things correctly in order to get my reward, if any. The reward could just be that you're going to get a passing grade, and you just need to accept that. When children are taught as younger students, as they get older, they don't expect rewards when they're structured as they're young. Praise. You always want to praise the students' effort, no matter how little, how big. If they got it wrong, you never want to place fear into a child. Always praise everything that they try to do. How to motivate. I found this little story because I think that it relates to students at any age. The fox leaped high to grasp the grapes, but the delicious looking fruit remained just out of his snapping jaws. After a few attempts, the fox gave up and said to himself, "These grapes are sour, and if I had some, I would not eat them." The fox changes his attitude to fit his behavior. So you want to go with expectations, accountability. You never want the students to expect to win the very first time. You never not want them to ever experience failure. Never want them to expect an instant reward. They're not going to always get everything right the first time. Accountability. You always want to hold the students accountable for their actions. As well, the teacher should hold themselves accountable for it, because if you see that a student is giving up at the beginning of their goal, it is your job to encourage them and motivate them to do better. However, you have to do that. Okay, these are just some statements that were made. The first one is, "I have so many great ideas, if only I could get motivated. I do well with a deadline, but I don't seem to motivate myself. I could perform better if I could make myself practice more." These are some of the statements that are made, and the response that I would like to have from you is to tell me if it's from an intrinsic motivated student or an extrinsic motivated student. Would an intrinsic motivated student make this type of statement, or would an extrinsic motivated student make this type of statement? And how can a teacher change this type of thinking into a more positive way of thinking? Intrinsically motivated students are not necessarily more intelligent or have better ideas or better luck. They are just able to pursue a goal until its conclusion. The primary motivation is always internal. Intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, and intrinsic motivation. The thing that I want to tell you about this, because sometimes a student can be an intrinsic motivated student, but can turn into an extrinsic motivated student and then go back to intrinsic motivated student. One example is if a person